Do you know why you keep getting disappointed by people? Usually, it's just one mistake. You keep expecting the right things from the wrong persons. Yes, you hear me well. The right things from the wrong person. Sometimes you want something really valid, but the person that you want that from is not the right person. Sometimes you want a deep relationship, but that person is just a friend that wants to go partying with you. Sometimes you want emotional support from people that are strictly coworkers. In today's video, I'm here to teach you the 3 types of friendship and you knowing how each type they fit in your life. And in this way, we can stop having expectations from people that cannot give to us what we really want and deserve. One of the biggest problems in human relationships is expecting something that people cannot give to you. And like I said in the beginning of the video, even if you're expecting the right thing, sometimes by not knowing the type of relationship that you are in, you don't know what to expect. And sometimes some people are more anxious about relationships, or sometimes we don't even care too much about these details, but they really, really matter. Maybe you're someone that even if you don't care, you're someone that people get distance from you and you don't even understand why they are getting distance from you. And this is the main problem, maybe you are frustrated, or maybe you are making people frustrated about a relationship. And by knowing each type of relationship, you can tackle the exact problem and you can communicate and make the expectations of the relationship right in the beginning. You don't need to tell them in the beginning, look, the relationship should be this way, but you can, through your actions, through what you talk with them, through the way that you are behaving, you can show them that the relationship will be just this type of relationship, or you're seeking a more deep relationship. Okay, so these 3 types of relationship, the first time that I heard it from was from my brother. We were talking about friendship and I was reading a really interesting book that he was talking about Thomistic psychology, so psychology based in St. Thomas Aquinas. And it's quite interesting because it gives us the beautiful vision of the church about human beings, human life, existentially, how we are and how we function. And it was amazing. And one of the chapters I was commenting with my brother about friendship, like about love and friendship and so on. And then my brother was telling me that he was at the same time reading a book that divided in 3 types of relationship. And I think, if I recall correctly, who divided that at the first time was Aristotle. So I think it was Aristotle divide friendships in 3 types. So this guy, this philosopher, was looking and like, okay, we can divide friendships in 3 types. The first type of relationship is the one that is the easiest to make, and is friendship of pleasure. And sometimes we hear this type of relationship and looks something really superficial, and sometimes it can be. What is friendship of pleasure? Friendship of pleasure is the type of relationship that doesn't have much depth. This is not based on values. It's not based on anything that you guys are doing in common, but you guys go to drink a beer together. You go to a bar together. You guys go to the cinema and so on. This is the pleasure relationship. And you're telling me, Daniel, it sounds really bad. No, not necessarily. In my country, people has a negative view of pleasure relationships, but it's not really. Pleasure relationships can be also childhood friends, can be also your brothers or sisters, your siblings, can be pleasure relationships, because sometimes we're born in the same family, but we turn out that when we become adults, we don't have the same values. Especially if you're someone that is seeking truth. And this is really common. If you read the saints, the first problem that they have is with their family. Read the life of St. Francis of Assisi, and he has a problem with his father. So it's really common that happen. And these people that we share our childhood and we share the experiences when we are kids become relationships of pleasure. That we talk with them, we enjoy talking what happened before, and this is really important. And this is even between pleasures you have quality, right? This sort of like you shared an experience with them. There's something spiritual on that, like telling what happened on the time. How was it amazing? I love when I go to Brazil with my cousins to talk how was our childhood, what we played, and so on. And this is amazing. This is healthy. There's something, like I said, there's something spiritual on that, even though nowadays you might have different values, different jobs, different world visions, might even disagree politically and so on. But this doesn't change the fact that these are friends of pleasure. They're friends of pleasure. And we as human beings, we seek more depth than that. We seek deeper relationships than that. Even though those relationships are nice. Okay? Are nice. Another type of pleasure relationship sometimes is having friends like me. Sometimes I like to discuss with people intellectual stuff. It gives me something. And it's a sort of a pleasure relationship too. It's nothing, sometimes the person disagrees with me, is even an atheist or is even, I don't know, whatever. And we having this exchange, sometimes that is a pleasure relationship too, You will be able to distinguish a pleasure relationship once I describe to you the two authors. The second type of relationship is relationship of utility. And the relationship of utility, friendship of utility, okay, is a type of friends, right? Friends of pleasure, friends of utility. And the second type of friendship is friend of utility. And it sounds really bad because it sounds selfish, but no, like when you go to work, for example, there are people there that you're just talking with them because it's a professional relationship. There are people there that sometimes you don't like your boss. Sometimes your boss is a narcissist. So it's just friendship of utility. And friendship of utility is something more common than you think. Sometimes you just have one church nearby and you have to go to that church, but you don't get around with anyone. And it's more or less like the relationship that you have with the priest is friendship of utility in some sense, because you're going there because of the sacraments and so on. So it's more like, utility is a need that we have. It's a useful relationship. Oh, then you're saying that you're using the priest. How can you say that? I'm describing reality, my friend. There are times that you don't get around with the people in the church, either because you are antisocial or because the church itself has a bad community. I came from a bad community and they mess it up my life. Definitely we have bad people in the church. That's not often said, I believe. People romanticize stuff sometimes. But yeah, sometimes you are in a situation that you have a useful friend. And you're not being selfish because of that. It's a need. You need the sacraments. Okay? And the same thing as you need to work. You need the church. You got what I mean? That's why you're there. And that's totally fine. Give yourself time. You're a human being, right? We'll figure this out. But this is the second type of friendship. And, when we are working, like I said, we just talk with these people because they are there. It wasn't because we are professionals. It wasn't because we are in the same company. Maybe seeing them in the street, you wouldn't even talk with them. And that's why sometimes in work we avoid politics, we avoid talking about religion, and in Brazil we say that we avoid talking about football teams. Because the focus there is to make the business work. But sometimes you can have a mixture of both. There are people in the company that you like to hang out, to go to drink a beer, to go to the cinema, and so on. And friendships of utility, in some sense, it's a little bit above of the pleasure one, is a little bit above. Because it's active. It's active. You're doing something for the world. You're doing something of value. It's reciprocal in some sense too. Not too much up. And friendship of utility, useful relationships, they can be integrated also with pleasure. You can go to the cinema with your coworkers. That's why so many companies, they promote some parties and so on to promote the culture inside of the business. And these are friendships that is just an exchange. I do a certain job for you and you pay me. This is the essence of it. And you have a mixture of both. And you can see, right, like why we say like don't make business with friends, because in terms of friendship, sometimes like you have pleasure friends and they have expectations about you and you try to do a business with them, But the relationship is never the emphasis more in the utility of it, but more in the pleasure. So you feel afraid to talk with the people because they will feel offended. You feel afraid to tell them. You start to see the complexity of the dynamics. It can be a mixture. It can be more pleasure than utility. It could be more utility than pleasure. And you need to be aware of this kind of stuff in order to communicate well with people. The more you are able to describe the world around you, the more that you're able to label it. Doesn't matter if it's with adjectives, doesn't matter if it's with names, doesn't matter even if it is with symbols, because sometimes you read a literature book, you're like, this guy is exactly like Raskolnikov from Dostoevsky, Doesn't matter. The more you are able to describe, the best. Because the better you can communicate with other human beings, and the better you can find solutions to solve the problem. Before you knowing how to label something, that thing is blurry. Okay? And the third type of relationship is the highest one, is the best one, is friendship of virtue. Friendship of virtue is the highest type of friendship. And I know that in the Anglo-Saxonic world, in the English world, like United States, England, Australia, Canada, you guys call friend every single person. Like, go to work, oh, that's my friend. Like, sometimes you just said hi to the person and you call them friend. But friend, in the strong sense, like with the full meaning of the word, is not the pleasure type, is not the utility type, but is the virtue type. And I would explain to you what is friends of virtue, because this type of friend, if you find one, you find a treasure. You found a treasure. Doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man, you found a treasure. Friendship of virtue are that friendship that the focus is rejecting the same things and wanting the same things. And what, Daniel, what is that? I think the term in Latin is idem velle and idem nolens. So you reject the same things and you want the same things. And what does that mean? Because you guys point life to the same direction, and as a consequence, you will have similar values because you point to the same direction. You reject the same things and you want the same thing because you're pointing to that direction. You want to achieve the same goal. And don't get me wrong, this goes beyond just being inside the church. This goes beyond being Catholic. This goes beyond that. Beyond. Sometimes you can have a really good friend of virtue that is an atheist. You can have that. You can. Sometimes you can have that. Sometimes you can really have a really good friend of virtue that is a Buddhist. Because you guys are aiming on the same goal. You're aiming on truth. You're aiming to become the best version of yourself that in the Catholic Church is to become a saint. Maybe for the Buddhists is something. And you guys might have really interesting conversations and you might challenge his belief and he challenge your beliefs because you guys are seeking truth. So it goes beyond that. It goes beyond. And it looks more that you are brothers in armies. You can speak freely and honestly about stuff without being judged that much. Why? Because you finally found a human being that understands you. And the emotional depth, it's possible to flourish in this kind of relationship. Oh, Daniel, I saw people having emotional depth in other relationships. I see people getting married because of pleasure, Yes, you can even have marriages that they stay together because of pleasure. Like sometimes they have a good economical life and they don't have many problems and they die on that way. But there are aspects of true friendship that they will never experience. They will never experience. Because we human beings, we are more than emotions. We are more than just emotional connection. We need someone that has the values that are seeking the same things like us. So the heart touch each other. I like to give the example of me and my girlfriend. My girlfriend was an atheist in the beginning, but she had the openness to the truth. I was a new Protestant, and I hope one day I explain what I mean by new Protestant. But on that time, we both she had the openness, I was seeking truth, and I started to challenge her, like, you cannot be that passive, And then she challenged me back, like, I don't understand, and so on. And she made me grow so much from this relationship. So many spiritual goods that you can get from it. And then the relationship, if it's a girlfriend or marriage relationship, you start to contemplate that it goes beyond just sex. Because sex is from what? Pleasure relationships. You know, people are just seeking pleasure. Okay. And friends of virtue, they sometimes they can give you these three aspects. They can help you out, you know, for financial conditions because they understand you. That you guys can go for a beer, you know, to talk your stuff. This sensation is amazing. And the love between the caring between each of you, it's amazing. But like Aristotle would say, this type of friendship is extremely rare. Why, Daniel? Why extremely rare? Such an unfair thing. God created us to have this type of relationship, but we don't have. It's so rare. It's not because of God, my friend. It's because we human beings born with one thing called free will, you know? And unfortunately, most of the people that live in this world, they don't seek deep things. Most of the people seek deep pleasures, extremely quick solutions. They don't try to cultivate spiritual goods. You know, sometimes like I'm in university and people talking about like I'm going spiritual here, and it's just a variation of I just wanna clean up my conscience, or I just want to be chill with life and whatever. So seek friends of virtue if you want that. And from the people around you, you need to categorize them in their place and measuring, because these relationships, they can mix with each other. Sometimes you can find a coworker that might not be seeking the same things that you are seeking, but they have the openness. Sometimes it's good to invest some time on there, you know? And in the beginning, you might be like a mentor to the person, but over time, the person starts to catch up. And in other aspects, the person gives you something, okay? And you see the complexity of human relationships. And the last thing that I want to speak here is how to find these relationships of virtue. How can I find it? Okay? How can I find? In order to find, you need to go to places that you believe that people are like that. We'll give an example. You can find maybe friends of virtue like by going to groups that value the work of Jordan B. Peterson, for example. I know that Jordan B. Peterson is someone that takes his life extremely serious, and his work, you know, 12 Rules of Life, Beyond the Order, those are the two books that I read about him. From his work, cultivate this kind of attitude towards life, of seeking spiritual goods, holding responsibility, and so on. Of course, you might find Catholics and not Catholics. Sometimes inside of the church, people that takes extremely serious their faith, not just showing off. Some people just want to show off. You know, they're praying, they're so, oh my God, he's so pious and so on. But when you start to talk with the person doesn't have any depth, doesn't have really a close relationship with God. And this is really, really common nowadays. So start to go to this kind of place that people of virtue will be, and you will increase your chances to find them. Okay? I hope that you guys liked the video. Please smash the like button if you liked it. If you don't like it, or you have any feedback, positive feedback or negative feedback, please write in the comments, because you guys help me a lot, because I'm starting here on YouTube. And third of all, I want you guys to put on YouTube 3 names of 3 friends of yours. You know, one will be a friend of pleasure, another one a friend of utility, and the third one a friend of virtue. But don't tell them, okay? Just write their names and tag them, okay? See you guys, and have a nice week. Dealing with narcissists is way more than just creating boundaries and trying to be respected. The problem is not the techniques. Sometimes it's just about our inner attitude that is wrong, the way that we perceive the world. And we believe, sometimes subconsciously, that everyone is a nice person, that people are not capable to destroy your whole life.